There once was an English official working in Africa, and someone one day presented to him this massive jewel, this beautiful jewel that no one's ever seen something quite so beautiful before. And it was a gift for the king. It was called the Heart of Africa. And this jewel was amazing, and as he presented it to this official, it not only was beautiful, but it came with a great responsibility of getting this jewel back to England, back to the king, without getting stolen from some people. And he started thinking, how am I going to get this jewel back to the king without it being stolen? And he decided a show of force would be the order of the day. And so he got this massive box, and he had these 4 soldiers who would carry the box, who would always stay with it, never leave the box. And then he got hundreds more soldiers to accompany the jewel on the way back, and they go to this warship, and they send it back up to England, and everybody's watching, everyone can see it, and they know that if you're going to steal this jewel, that's what you're going to have to overcome. And they get it to the king's courtroom in England, and they open the box, and it's empty. And then the official walks in shortly after, and he presents the king of England with the Heart of Africa, the great, mighty jewel. And they said, how'd you do it? What happened? He said, well, after I sent the ship on its way, I got on a passenger ship, and I carried the jewel here in my pocket. And no one knew the better. In this life, it's really easy to get caught up with all the moving parts. It's really easy to get caught up in the fanfare and the pyrotechnics and the things that are going on out there. And you kind of go, wow, look, this thing over here is amazing, or this thing over here is amazing. But very often, all those moving parts can get us to miss the most important thing that's going on in a given moment. And here's my argument for today. In this life, there's a lot of moving pieces. In this life, there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of things going on. But the jewel in God's pocket will never be center stage. The jewel in God's pocket will never be front page headline news. It'll always fly under the radar. And here's the deal. If you're a Christian, if you're the church, you are the jewel in God's pocket. You are the mission He has chose to play out in this world on His behalf. It is a massive honor, and it's a massive responsibility. And what needs to happen as we live our lives for Jesus is we make sure that we don't get distracted. That we don't fall for the sleight of hand. We don't fall for the things that are going on. And we keep our focus on the mission at hand. Because you are the jewel in God's pocket. The world may tell you all these massive things are going on. But the church, the followers of Jesus, are the jewel in God's pocket. And today, our passage today in the book of Nehemiah. Who's reading along, by the way? Anybody reading along? Yes, Brandy's reading along. There we go. We got a couple people. If you do not have one of these, let me know afterwards. I'll order you some. We have a couple weeks left in our Nehemiah series. Today's passage is all about keeping focus. Today's passage is all about refusing to get distracted when the good work of God is going on. And Nehemiah is going to have a ruthless relationship with distractions. He's going to have a ruthless relationship. He will not deal with them because he is in the middle of a very good work. Now, last week, we have seen so far in the story of Nehemiah where he heard the news about Jerusalem, the city's in ruins, everything's wrecked, everything's bad, and he gets permission and favor from the king and God to come rebuild the city. He sees what it's going to take. He sees what's going to happen. He even sees what the opposition is going to be. He sees who the bad guys are, Sanballat and his friends, and guess what? Now he is hip deep in a very good work. He's not only got himself inspired, he's got everybody else inspired, and everybody is working to build this wall. And he's standing down threats, and he's standing down opposition, he's standing down jeers and insults. Look at that silly wall the Jews are building. If a fox jumped on it, it'll topple over. And they're just going to keep on working. Oh, we're going to attack you if you keep working. And so half of them are holding swords, and the other half are holding trowels, and they're going to keep doing the work. That's what we covered last week. And so right now, we're going to find Nehemiah hip deep in the very good work that God has for him. And the question is going to move from how do I get these people going, to how do I keep these people going? And more importantly, how does he keep himself going? Because there are some distractions that are about to come his way. And he is the jewel in God's pocket. And he doesn't need to be distracted from this good work. If you go to our Discover class, which is next week, right after church, we'll get you home by lunch, and you'll get to hang out with me, you'll hear this question that I say I try to keep in the front of my mind often as the pastor of this church. And it is the question at the top of everything, as far as I'm concerned. And is this: how do we stay evangelistic? As a church, how do we stay evangelistic? Which is a tough question to ask because it begs the question, are we already being evangelistic? In which case we got to really look in the mirror and go, okay, maybe I need to get back on the horse and let's get going again. Because that is the thing. We are the church. And Nehemiah is in the same question. He's asking the same thing. How do we stay involved? How do we stay moving forward? And in chapter 6, we see that he has got a lot of the work done so far. Now remember the insult, by the way. And the insult is, look at that dumb little fence they're building. A fox could knock it over. All right? So chapter 6, page 26 in your Bibles, says this: Now, when our enemies heard that I had built the wall and there was no breach left in it. Oh, so by the way, this is a 2.5 mile wall they're building. Okay? 2.5 miles. They have rebuilt it. There's not a breach anywhere. It's strong, although they would not yet set up the doors and the gates. Okay, so it's not so feeble after all. All his enemies are like, oh, well, okay, well, never mind. That actually is kind of a strong fence. Maybe we should change our tactics. Maybe we should just start threatening him with his life. And his enemies said this: Sanballat and Geshem sent to me saying, come, let's meet together in Hakaphirim, in the plain of Ono. And they intended to do me hard. Yeah, they intended to do you harm. The place was called Hakaphirim. Here's the rule, okay? If the place they want to meet you sounds like a battle cry, they probably want to kill you, all right? Like if you're on Craigslist and the guy's like, hey, come buy this mattress from me, and they're like, where? And you're like, death to your children, he probably wants to kill you and wear your hair as a wig. So don't buy that mattress. And so I sent messages to them saying, now listen to this, because this is the one time I'm going to read this line, but it's not just an important line for today, it's for the whole book, and it's for our whole lives. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come to you? Now remember what we're doing here. Remember the goal of this series. We're trying to find a God-given vision for your life and for my life. And what's God leading our church to? What's the vision for our church? And how can we each find our spot in God's story? How can we get this good work that is a guiding principle? It's a North Star for our lives. And the question is this: what is the good work God's calling you to? What is the good work that God's calling me to? That if I were to just stop and get embroiled in the different things that are going around, it would keep me from doing that thing. Because here's what's really cool about this line. This line not only is awesome at keeping him focused, but it also shows us how to stay focused. And it's like this: once you've discovered what the great work is, once you've discovered what God, that God vision in your life that you want to be giving your life to, you can then follow after it. You can also chase after it. And it keeps Nehemiah focused. It keeps him moving forward. And the reason, and not only does it keep him working, but it also keeps him from dying. Like he's like, oh great, it's a benefit to him every way he cuts it. Yeah, I have to deal with some insults from these guys, but at least I'm not dead. At least I'm still doing the work. Here's what Timothy says. The Apostle Paul wrote this to Timothy, who was a young pastor. He says this: share in the suffering as a good soldier for Christ. Now listen to this. No soldier gets entangled in civilian pursuits, since his aim is to please the one who enlisted him. His aim. Remember that movie, Patriot? Now that I'm my dad, this scene can bring me to tears. He's talking to his kids. He's about to go to battle for the first time with his kids. And what does he say? Kids, what have I always told you? What have I always told you? His kids go, aim small, miss small. Aim small, miss small. What he's saying is, and I grew up with a dad from the country, so he taught me how to shoot. What he says is, don't aim for the chest, aim for the button. Right? The more if you have something to aim at, it gives you something to focus on. And what's he saying about this soldier? The reason a person can get distracted and moving from left to right and doing all this sort of stuff is because he doesn't have something to aim at. But a good soldier is going to have something to aim at, and he's going to stay focused on it. And Nehemiah goes, look, I know you got stuff going on. I know you got issues with me, but I can't deal with that right now because I'm on a mission from God. Okay, I went from Patriot to Blues Brothers, but I'm gonna touch something in one movie you've seen eventually. Okay, so whatever. Okay, I'm not gonna go. So if you can discover what that thing is that God's calling you to, it can give you permission to keep moving forward. Now, my wife, Megan, is a licensed pharmacist. She could go and make twice as much money as I do tomorrow. She could be working full-time, making twice as much money as I do. And about every month, an opportunity shows up where maybe we should, there's a job opportunity somewhere, and every single time, we end up deciding the same thing. The value she's creating at home with our family exceeds the value she would make working full-time. And so every time the opportunity comes, she might start working. If that opportunity comes to work maybe a day a week or a day a month, whatever, maybe. But the answer every single time is the same. She's doing a great work, and she can't come down. And if you get an understanding of what that good work is, it clarifies your vision. It gives you something to aim at. And you go, okay, that's a great opportunity. It's just not what I'm aiming at right now. And you can stay focused. And listen to what they say in verse 4. And they sent to me 4 times in this way, and every time I answered them in the same manner. Distraction is the name of the game. And it's not going to just go away. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to live in a distraction-free world. We have to have a ruthless relationship with the distractions that come our way. That's the first distraction he had, and the distraction you can be prepared for is, hey, come do this other stuff. Come do this other thing. Here's the next one. They send an open letter to Nehemiah. It says this, in the same way, Sanballat, for the 5th time, sent his servant to me, but this time he sent it with an open letter. Now, I got to be honest with you. This is a moment where the Bible starts sticking its nose in places it doesn't belong, okay? I don't know if you've ever heard a preacher say that before, but we're all going to feel this one, all right? Because it's pretty safe to talk about a story where these guys tried to go lure this guy out so they can kill him, because most of us have never done that, right? Most of us can just pretty honestly raise our hands and say, you know what? I've never had my life threatened because of the ministry I'm a part of, and I've never threatened anybody else's life. It's actually a pretty nice thing. We can look at these people some distance and go, that's kind of a bit overboard if you ask me. But then when you start talking about words start getting thrown around and an open letter and sharing your thoughts so everybody else can hear them, then you start looking at that and go, oh, I've experienced that. I've been in that mess before. And worse, I've been that guy before. I've been the person stirring crap up. And you sit here and you realize, oh, this is one of the things that's trying to be used to get Nehemiah off mission. Gossip is an interesting thing. Because at least for my entire lifetime, I don't know what was going on in this world before I came. Probably didn't matter. Everyone was just sitting around waiting for me to show up. Okay, I got a little. Whatever. At least for my lifetime, the American church has tried to live down the fact that gossip has been so easily a part of Christian communities around the world. It's just found its home everywhere. And the reason it can creep in so easily into communities is because it has this defense mechanism that it hides behind called concern. I'm not gossiping, I'm just concerned. Now, you could never say that about something else. You could never be like, hey, I'm not cheating on my wife, I'm just concerned. You know what I mean? Everyone will go, yeah, that's not how it works, Garrett. Because adultery doesn't have a defense mechanism like that. And so, do you know who Dietrich Bonhoeffer was? Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pastor in Nazi Germany who escaped Nazi Germany, had a place to live in America, and chose to go back into the danger so he could lead a ministry in a seminary there. He's that kind of Christian, okay? He's a historically influential Christian thinker. He wrote The Cost of Discipleship. He started a Christian community that Christians for 80 years have been inspired by and want to live like. And in that community, led by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he had to one day make a rule. You know what the rule was? Okay, guys, I just got to talk to you. We're just not going to be allowed to talk about people if they're not in the room. Now, let me ask you a question. Is it possible to talk about someone who's not in the room without it being gossip? Yes. Yes, of course you can. But what Bonhoeffer is showing us is that that's how easy it can slip in. It can slip in so easily that even Bonhoeffer had to be like, I'm making a rule, guys. That's a rule I made with middle schoolers, by the way. I had to tell middle schoolers in my youth group, hey, you can only do prayer requests about yourself. No more prayer requests about the kid who got suspended from school. I don't want to hear those stories. You're just trying to share stories out of school. But because it just slips in. It just does. And here's what's cool. I don't want... The bare minimum when we're talking about gossip is to just say, hey, I want to encourage you to just give yourself a zero tolerance with it. But here's something that I experienced a couple weeks ago that is even better. Instead of going, hey, how can I not say bad things about this person or not say bad things about our church or whatever, how can we start finding good things to say about our church? I coached basketball this year, 2 teams, and it was a lot of time running the gym for me. So it was a lot, and a lot of kids, and a lot of everything. And I had a lot of huddles and a lot of kids circle around me, all this sort of stuff. And the last team huddle we had, I was telling the kids we're going to have our team party here at our church. By the way, that's a really low barrier to entry. That's a really easy way to let your friends know you go to church here, is if you want to do an event with some friends, use our church building. If it's available, use it. That'd be awesome. And your friends will all know, oh, they go to church here. I didn't know that. And so I'm telling the kids, hey, we're going to do the team party here at the church. And Ben Silvick, who goes to church here, and he's on my basketball team, we're all talking, and he comes over my shoulder and he goes, it's a really good church. And in the moment, my character as a coach is the annoyed basketball coach. That's my thing, you know. And so at the moment, I was like, you just stop talking. But then for the last 3 weeks, I'm going, Ben is the man. You know what I mean? This guy is awesome. And he's just like, and I thought, that is so cool. The one thing I've ever heard him say about our church to other kids was, that's a really good church. I thought, that will build a church, man. Like, that will build a church. And here's what Nehemiah's dealing with. An open letter. What does that open letter say? Verse 6, it's been reported among the nations. People are saying, they're talking over there. And then you hear who's talking, and it's this guy named Geshem. You're like, well, that guy's been a hater since chapter 2. Like, we've known we've known that he's like a bad guy since chapter 2 of our story. And he's your person you're bringing up. But that's just what Nehemiah's having to deal with. And here's what's cool. I don't know what you think. If I asked you, hey, what's the biblical answer to some sort of gossip or some sort of smear happening to you in your life? If you wanted my opinion on what the next thing would be, it'd be this great big PR campaign. Like, hey, no, I'm going to go show the world how I'm riding my high horse, and I've always been right. I've never done anything wrong, and actually you're a pretty bad person. And blah, blah. That's not Nehemiah. Nehemiah, his advice for how to deal with this is just to ignore it out of hand. He goes, no, nothing like that's happening. You're inventing it out of your own mind, and he just walks away. Isn't that cool? Did you know that's what the Bible's going to let you? You could just dismiss it. Nah, that's not true. Not even close. And he walks away. It's kind of cool. And you can do that too. You and I don't have to get embroiled on the little things where we have to defend ourselves at every point. Sometimes we can just go, yeah, that doesn't make sense. That's not true. I'm not going to deal with it. This is something my dad actually told me once. He said, Garrett, the kind of accusation someone makes at you tells you how you should handle it. He goes, if someone came to me and said, Cam, you're an adulterer, and there's never been a woman you didn't sleep with, I would just laugh in his face. I won't have to defend it. I just laugh in that person's face and walk away because it's so untrue, I don't even have to interact with it. He says, but if someone came up to me and said, Cam, you're a pretty worldly person, that would require a little stronger look in the mirror. Because there is some truth to that. The stain of this world does get on us. And we do buy into the ways of the world. And we do have to go, oh, yeah, maybe a little bit. And so, when we are receiving accusations or insults or whatever, no matter how malicious the person might be, if there's some truth in it, let it make you better. And if the accusation is completely wrong, no matter how friendly the person is, don't let it keep you down. Because you know who you are. And you know what God has got you here doing. Now, the last one, which I'm not going to have time to get into because I've written thousands of words more than I meant to write for this sermon. But the last distraction that was coming his way was that they were trying to convince Nehemiah to save his own skin. This guy shows up and goes, hey man, you know what? Everybody else is fine. You're the only one in danger. What you should do is you go hide in the temple and lock all the doors so you can be safe. And I don't have time to explain it, so I'll just say it and you can fill in the blanks if you want to. Here's what you can understand. If you ever start developing something in your life where the only objective is to protect yourself and not come up with some workable solution that works for everybody around you, that puts you in a position of moral compromise. If Nehemiah would have taken this advice and said, oh, that's right, I'm going to protect myself by locking myself in the temple, then Nehemiah would have had to have been put to death for breaking the law of God because he's not allowed in there. And to save his own skin would have been putting him into a situation of moral compromise. And so Nehemiah is going, no, I'm not going to do that either. I'm just going to do what God's called me to do so I can move forward and keep the good work going. And time again, he comes with the same answer. Even though he only said it one time, you can hear it as kind of a refrain in his head. I can't come down. I'm doing a great work. I'm too busy going after what God's put in my heart to do. I can't get involved in all the other things you want me to get involved in. I'm working a great work. And here's what's so frustrating about this life. Here's what makes being a Christian so hard. Are you ready? And that is that the opportunity to be somebody's sand ballot is always there for you. I don't know what kind of opportunities you've missed in your life. I don't know what kind of stocks you had a chance to buy when they were like 4 cents a share and then you didn't do it and you could have been living on a beach somewhere. I don't know. Some opportunities come your way and they're never back. But the opportunity to be somebody's sand ballot never leaves. If you turn it down today, it'll be there tomorrow. If you get rid of it this week, it'll come around the corner next week. That ship has never sailed for long. And what we need to do in order to keep ourselves from becoming a Sanballat for somebody else is choose, I'm going to be a Nehemiah in my own life. I'm going to figure out what that great work is, and I'm going to chase after it. Because the opportunity to be a Nehemiah also never leaves. It also never leaves. That's the whole premise of this series, Hope in the Ruins. That you can look up one day and go, wow, how did I get into this giant mess? And there will still be hope for you. That you can look up one day and go, wow, the entire city is in wreckage, and there's still hope that you can rebuild and have a positive future tomorrow. That's the whole premise of the series we're doing, is that there's always hope no matter where you are. And the choice is, what am I going to do? What am I going to be with my life? What am I going to spend my life doing? Chasing after a goal that God has given me, or shooting other people down and becoming someone else's Sanballat? And the opportunity is always there. And we all know the strength of the Lord to try to be somebody's Sanballat, because there are some people that just rub us the wrong way. Right? Well, listen to what verse 15 and 16 say. So the wall was finished in 52 days, by the way. 2.5 miles, sitting in wreckage for 70 years. They rebuild the wall in 52 days. Think of all the insults about how bad of builders they are. How a fox could jump on it and they'll fall over. Or they're a bunch of cowards. No, actually, they're pretty good work. They built the whole wall 2.5 miles in 52 days. That's actually pretty impressive. And this is what it says. And when all our enemies heard of it, and the nations around us were afraid, and fell greatly in their own esteem. What is that saying? It's saying all the insults, all the critiques, all the threats, that was sleight of hand. Their real issue was that if Nehemiah went and did this thing he was trying to do, it would just point out all the things I'm not doing in my own life. Now here's a question. What does Nehemiah's success have to do with these other people? Nothing. It has nothing to do with the other people. It's just their perception that it has something to do with them. It's just their perception that his success is my shame. That's not true. That God comes to every last one of us and says, I have a mission for you. I have a job for you. I have a life for you. I have a call for you. Every single one of us. And for someone else chasing after God's call, it's not my shame. It's when I choose not to go after God's call in my life. That's my shame. In the